You may have heard recently that they uncovered some hidden structures underneath the pyramid. And while the data may or may not be correct about what these structures are, I think the evidence is clear to suggest that these pyramids were harvesting energy from the earth. In this video, I want to discuss how that's possible and what mechanics they might have been using to do this. They found 8, as they believe, cylindrical structures that sit underneath the Great Pyramid. These 8 cylinders appear to be in sets of 4 arranged on 2 blocks. They appear to have what looks like a spring-like structure that moves around the cylinders in a counterclockwise rotation, which is key in how these spring-like structures operate. It appears then that this energy is transferred into the pyramid where it's amplified into these Z towers. To explore how this is possible and what energy they are actually harnessing, we need to begin to understand that there are 2 different types of waves, especially when it comes to seismology. These waves are universally referred to as transverse waves and longitudinal waves. Longitudinal waves are waves that move in motion towards the propagating waves. And transverse waves are waves that move perpendicular to the motion of the wave. This is best represented by looking at how water waves crest on seashores and then slide back in. As the motion of the waves we're most familiar of with like tsunamis and regular water surface waves is that they come in a cresting motion, and when they reach the seashore, they lose that up and down motion, slowly becoming flat and then sliding back into the oncoming waves. And these oncoming waves then pick up the transverse waves, which become the water, slowly adding back to the totality of the pool. If we look at this video here, we'll see that they describe P waves and S waves as the waves that move through the Earth's crust, the mantle, and the core as earthquakes in seismology. These different waves are believed to not travel through the air. And the way these waves work is that it's a up and down motion, right? So it's a packing. Each time the Earth vibrates, it sends out a packet that travels along, much like a subwoofer does. The way these towers are working, these spires underneath the pyramid, is that they are grabbing different energy signatures. I'm assuming that these different cylinders are probably different thicknesses and different radiuses, providing a series of energetic signatures that are being pulled out. We commonly call these Schumann frequencies or Schumann resonance cascades, as they are the series of frequencies that we commonly find emitted by the Earth and then propagate off the ionosphere, coming back down into Earth. I believe that the pyramids were designed to collect this natural resonating frequency, create and channel an upward motion that's given by the springs as a constant vibration, channeled up into the pyramid, where it's reaching these 5 different towers and then being channeled through these different geometric waveguides here, these white lines, into these 5 Z towers, where they're being projected because of the 5th one in the center is creating a disbalance with the 4 on the outside, which are focusing energy. So you've got the 4 focusing energy and this 5th one shooting it up the center. I also wanted to add that here, this white box labeled number 1 appears to be a capacitor that is cycling with different charges, acting almost as a pump shooting up the center of the pyramid. And then that goes into the other parts of the pyramid that we're more familiar with. As you can see here, these different arms here, I believe, are chambers that would move the natural energy from the Earth up into this second area where what looks like staircases are actually natural resonant chambers that I believe are collecting the different frequencies from lower to higher and allowing them to propagate themselves and spin within their chambers before being grabbed by the upward flow and moving with it. In this way, you have a series of capacitors in a ratio together before reaching the different chambers, like the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber. I believe that perhaps the Queen's Chamber handles one set of frequencies and the King's Chamber handles the other set of frequencies. And I believe that perhaps the reason the King's Chamber is off center is just like our hearts are off center. So that this slight off balance of the King's Chamber shooting waves up allows for the imbalance and the creation of a sustainable energy field that responds and fluctuates depending on the environment outside of the pyramid. In this way, they created a living, breathing mountain without any moving parts, which is absolutely nuts. Because as we all know, there aren't any mountains in the middle of Egypt or anywhere close to it. This is a literal feat of engineering, whether it was done by people like us or not. Here we can see different structures that appear to also be energy resonant chambers. They would, I'm guessing, coalesce energy in these different chambers so that the energy could be conditioned before it's being propagated out as a single signal that contained several frequencies that were beneficial to our bodies as both a healing force, could be tapped in as maybe some sort of energy, and revitalize the environment around them by amplifying the natural frequencies of the earth. And I believe that today the pyramids are actually out of sync, and that might actually be why everything around the pyramids is nothing but desert, because it's actually just shooting out destructive static electricity, poisoning the environment. And what's really cool is that if you look at the opposite side of the earth, not only did they know that this was in a highly energetic spot, but on the other side of the planet, literally, is the islands of Hawaii. And not just any islands, or all of them, but rather the biggest volcano on the island. Suggesting that the ancients understood that there was a 360-degree propagation throughout the planet that gave rise to different volcanoes and could be utilized to create, as we discussed, living mountains. I also believe that what we call Jed towers were probably a lot like energetic pylons to propagate energy to the local regions of Egypt. And this allowed for local cities to be able to have their own propagating energy field based off of the greater structure, the Great Pyramid. And I think that one of the reasons that Egypt actually collapsed, and it was so weird that it collapsed, was that these pyramids slowly went out of sync with the Earth's natural frequencies. And this is due to both the natural drifting of the poles and also the continuous movement of our solar system and how it evolves over time. The pyramids were never meant to be a structure operating for forever, but there may be a time where they come back in resonance naturally. And it's quite possible that as we understand more of these electrical dynamics and how we can use natural systems to let these energies sort themselves out and create self-sufficient, intelligent energy structures themselves, the more we're going to be able to understand how to recalibrate these pyramids so that we can, again, enjoy the benefits of them and really move our bodies and minds and souls into the next level. Which also I want to touch on, like, I think that a large part of what the pyramids were used for was for priests and priestesses to understand how to both astral travel, understand their greater self. Some would say separate the Ba from the Ka and travel to the stars astrally. And this is all very possible because by having natural frequencies propagate out of this pyramid, being inside of it, you would feel all of these natural frequencies that our body already uses. And they would be amplified to a degree that it would be like being superpowered. And then following that flow of the energy as it moves upwards and then is funneled through the pyramid before shooting out the top, we understand that like you would be just part of that energy in the structure. To quickly show how the energy might be moving upwards and then being cascaded out of the tip of the pyramid, let's look at how this would align with the bottom of the pyramid. So you would see energy coming up in a counterclockwise motion from left to right. And it would go up, hitting each segment, reverbing off of each part of the pyramid. These different vent shafts are waveguides to direct the flow of energy by mixing it with the energy of the outside air and allowing an exit point for the sorted air that is no longer able to be compressed. This allows both for intake and outtake of bad frequencies. As the energy reaches the Queen's chamber, it's then amplified and projected upwards via these different stones that will collect energy and create energy pockets just like a capacitor does on a modern electronic device. As energy is pumped upwards, these capacitors will push energy up further, creating a continuous flow up to the peak and then projected upwards straight through the pyramid. And this would be in rotation just like these stones are. So the first one would be kind of, flat, ballsy, I guess. The second one would be kind of more flat. The third one would be more to the left in reference to this, or to the south. So you'd have a more off angle flow. So right now you got a bumpy one. Then you got a flat one. So you got bump, pushing. Then you got angling this way. So you've got a northward spinning force. Now you have another one, which is a southward spinning force. So now you've got two counter rotating energy streams before they're slightly projected upwards and then sent straight up through these peaks. This would move right up the center of the pyramid, shooting out the top. But what about the King's Chamber? Well, the King's Chamber being slightly off center and having a lot of the same features actually conditions the energy a lot more sophisticatedly. Because if you look, the energy would be spinning left to right. It would go a little bit to the right, and then a little bit to the left, and then a little bit in the center, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and then this continuous pumping stream will push all of these different frequencies up before being propagated out again through the top. And this would create a counter spinning 2-frequency heterodyning signal that eventually gets squeezed, sorted, and shot out the top of the pyramid through what used to be called the Benben stone, which was believed to be a high dielectric gold-based tip that was used to project energy in the region. And what's really cool about these discoveries is that I think this is just one of many pyramids or man-made mountains around the planet. Because if you look at other anecdotal evidences and also serious evidences like the pyramid they found in Bosnia, or the one they say is in Alaska, or the one that has been rumored to exist in Antarctica, these pyramids are bigger than the Great Pyramid. And that suggests that they're putting out a bigger energy signature. And again, I believe these pyramids are going to be in hot spots where energetic seismic waves propagate naturally. And there's going to be opposites on every side, with either a volcano or a huge mountain or another pyramid. If you've enjoyed this content, please check out my Patreon at patreon.com/AdamDavid, or just subscribe to my YouTube channel, TikTok, and Twitter. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks again.